You start. There it goes. We are live. Ready?
All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of Isshinryu Today. You are listening to the Isshinryu Today podcast live tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as we try to do every Saturday. So we want to thank you for coming into the program. And I think we've got our audio fixed here now this evening. Seems to sound a lot better. We worked on some graphics and things like that. It looks really good. Miss Rebecca did a great job this weekend. So shout out to her. But welcome to Ishin-Ryu Today. We have a saying on Ishin-Ryu Today: we must remember where we come from in order to know where we're going. Well, tonight we're going to dive into some of that stuff tonight, of talking about our Ishin-Ryu codes, the structure of our system, and how that applies to not only inside the dojo, but our mental and physical aspects, and how these things can help you with your training in many different aspects of life. But before we do, as we always do, we like to give a shout out and a remembrance of our past. Where did we come from? And how do we know where we're going? Well, we must remember where we come from in order to know where we're going. And we want to touch that on that just a little bit. The first shout out this evening I have is to our founder, Tatsuo Shimabuku, the man who shared his culture and wanted his culture spread throughout the world so that everyone would know what Isshinryu karate was, what his culture was like. And to me, I find that outstanding. And he was sought out by the servicemen and the Marine Corps to teach our young soldiers that were having to serve in the military to fight for our country, to fight for our freedom. He was sought out to teach them a system that was structured so that they could return home to their families in a safe manner. The, they entrusted him with that, and with that, they kept his request to honor the system and promote the culture and the society from which he come forth. And so I got to give a shout out to Tatsuo Shimabuku. His dream still lives through each and every one of us. And then to the first generation students, you guys were amazing to pioneer this system in such a short time that you had with the founder, and to share his dream worldwide. We couldn't be here at all. None of us would be here training or even having a show talking about the system, which is the avenues that we have now. We can broadcast live anywhere, and got some exciting news coming up later on in the shout outs. But I want to give a shout outs to these first generation students to their that were obedient to their teacher, their founder, the founder of Ishinryu, and spread Ishinryu worldwide so that we could share this system. And the first generation students did a great job of pioneering Ishinryu to the United States and keeping the founder's dream alive. And those are some of the structured features that we're going to talk about tonight on the show. And then, of course, the second generation students. We're here to protect and preserve the lineage and the heritage in which we come from. And you did just that. You did an amazing job, and you're still doing that. These second generation students amaze me. I trained under a second generation student who trained under a first generation student. My teacher is Grandmaster Philly Little, who trained under Harold G. Long, who trained under Tatsuo Shimabuku. So to be a third generation student um, and being that close to the founder, you know, you really put that in perspective. It wasn't that really that long ago. Ishinru's not that old here in the United States. And I think about this all the time. To be a great part of this is truly an honor. I'm truly humbled to be able to be on the show tonight and share some of this stuff with you guys. But a few things that's going on that we're going to talk about, and I want to welcome to the show my co-host, Miss Rebecca Forrest. She's done a great job in the back office this week, and she's going to talk about a few announcements that we have. And guys, just listen. She's going to tell you how you can get to be a featured guest on the program. We'd love to have do some live interviews, and she's going to tell you how to do all that, how to get your events out there and broadcasted on the program every week, so that we can get people to come into your seminars, your tournaments, workouts, even your live streams. If you want to do a live workout, we have that available and things like that. So I want you to welcome to the show Sensei Rebecca Forrest.
Hello, everybody. I do have a few announcements for tonight, and I am glad that everybody's here tonight. And please remember to, for the YouTube channel, to hit the like button and finger straight punch that subscribe button because we would really love for a lot of people to subscribe to this channel. And um, also hit the any or the all. It's the all, excuse me. Hit the all for the notifications. That way you're staying up to date for our future podcasts and our future special guests that we will have. And hopefully that special guest will be you. Okay, so my first announcement, right quick, is the Circle of Masters. It will be held September 14th at 201 East Reed Road in Anderson, South Carolina. That is run by Grandmaster Phil E. Little. And it is an event that is going to be full of knowledge sharing and learning, Isshinryu growth, camaraderie, new friendships, lots of hugs and happy to see yous. And this is just a well run event. We start out with seminars. They have a fun little friendly competition at the end. But this is really something that you guys don't want to miss. We have been many years, and it's wonderful every year. And I just want to definitely shout that out. That is September 14th. I wrote it down wrong on my paper, but it's September 14th. Um, let's see. My next quick announcement, or try to be quick, is I was nominated for an award by the MAAA, and it's the Hall of Honors Legacy Weekend. It's going to be going on August 9th and 10th of this year. And I am currently looking for sponsors or supporters that will help out. Most people who donate $50, you're able to get yourself a 10th anniversary biography edition book, which I will have my karate bio in. And I'm trying to get this goal to go as big as possible because I would like to be on the front cover of that book because I mean there's some high name martial artists that are on that book, that are in that book. And as soon as we can get some of these books in, I'm up for some autographs and I'm going to be happy. In order to be able to sponsor, you have to go to fundraiser.com. It's spelled FUNDRAZAR.com / Rebecca hyphen Forrest. That's how you do that. Um, but no, that's a very honorable thing to be, to be nominated for that. But if I can make my goal, then I'll be the inclusion into the book and on the book and everything else. So, and that really means a lot to me to do that because that will, um, I want that to be able to show the younger martial artists and the older martial artists, that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can do this stuff. It is a possibility. So get in there and do it. Just do it. Get in there. Do those straight finger punches. um, let's see. If you are wanting to be live on an Isshinryu Today podcast, please email your name, your email, your phone number, and a short biography, and we'll be able to get back to you. But you want to be able to email that to capital I. It's going to be Isshinryu Today, but it's a capital I and a capital T at gmail.com. So that's Isshinryu Today at gmail.com. I am going to leave that that email in the comments. That way you'll be able to see that. And if there is anybody who is wanting for us to give shout outs for their events, tournaments, seminars, anything like that, then please leave your name and email and phone number within your to the Isshinryu Today at gmail.com. So, and then just let us know in that email that, hey, can you guys give a shout out for our tournament that's going to happen at such and such a time, and we're located in such and such. Just give us some details, and then we'll get back with you on that to make sure that all the information is confirmed, and then on that very next podcast, we will give you a shout out. I'm trying to think of everything that I need to say. I know I wrote stuff down. Um, I already told you about hitting the subscribe button and the like button, so we don't have to go back over that again. But I do believe that is the end of my announcements for tonight. I'm a little nervous, but I'm happy. I'm excited.
All right. Well, thank you guys for all that, Miss Rebecca. Great job. Thanks for the announcements and the events and the schedules that are happening in the future. And that's what we're about. So we spent a little of the past, and then we talked about a little bit of the future of things that's coming up and things that are happening within the Ishin-Ryu community and abroad. So let's dive into some things that are current and how we understand this and how do we translate some of our structure of our system, and those are called the codes of Isshinryu karate. So the code of Isshinryu karate is subject to many interpretations, and everybody has many interpretations. Within the code lies some of the basic principles of the Isshinryu system. The basic principles of the Ishin-Ryu system. It is hoped that you will think through the various parts of the code and apply these ideas to your own situations. We're going to talk about some of these codes as we go because this is kind of the structure. What do they mean? What are they trying to tell us, and how can we use these codes in our everyday life explanations, destinations, our journey, maybe in situations that may be beyond our control, or even in our techniques, our waza or our bunkai. How can we apply these moves, these codes, into our moves of our techniques and things like that? And what are they trying to tell us? Well, let's start with the first one. The first code of Ishinryu karate, and this is just a road path, guys. Is as I did some um, as I did some exploring on the Ishinryu codes and on the Blog Talk Radio, I talked about this a few years ago, and I went back and I listened to some of the shows and listened to some of the things. But some of the things that keynotes that really stuck out in my mind when I was talking about doing this show, this 8-part series of the codes, which I think is crucial because some of our students neglect to hear some of this stuff, and being able to interact on YouTube or something like that might be a great way to bring the true things that we need to enhance some of our abilities in our training. So the person's heart is the same as heaven and earth. That is code number one. And it says the person's heart is same as heaven and earth. Well, the earth is limited while heaven has no limits. Man has characteristics of both, as evidenced by the fact he is both the strongest and the weakest being in the universe. Now, there's a couple factors that I want to look here, and I want to understand why the heart. Why was the heart picked to be the number one thing in our system? It's one heart way or one heart system, one heart style. Like I said, there's many interpretations to the codes, and that's fine because you have to take these codes and apply them to your lifestyle. We all think differently. We're built differently. We react differently. We come from many different segments of the country. Um, so these things take into play of applying these applications not only in your training but your everyday life. But one thing in this to start off with is to understand a person's heart. So I'm going to read something in my research and some notes that I took, and I want to describe something and get your minds thinking about a person's heart. An average resting heart rate, and this is going by the American Heart Association and stuff, and it's just tests that they done, and you can research this stuff too. It's anywhere on Google or whatever. But an average resting heart rate is between 60 and 100 times per minute. So the heart beats resting heart rate. Resting heart rate. So I want you to think about that. Resting heart rate is between 60 and 100 times per minute. When you exercise your heart rate, it increases because your body has to pump more oxygenated blood to your cells. So you're doing this times four. So you're quadrupling your heart rate with your training regimen. If you're training, if you're doing anything, it's going to increase your heart rate, which is a good thing. And I'll explain why as I read and talk more into this. Um, your body has to pump more oxygenated blood um, to your cells. If you have an average resting heart rate of 76 beats per minute, this means that your heart will beat at least 4,000. Think about this, guys. Your heart will beat 4,560 times in 1 hour. To me, that's heavenly because that's a lot. Your heart is a muscle. You know, you get out there and you're working on the mat, and you let's say you hit a heavy bag, and you keep hitting this heavy bag. Some of us still hit heavy bags, but you're out there and you're hitting that heavy bag. Your arm starts to getting tired. Your back starts to hurt. Your legs start to hurt. Well, those muscles get rest. They get rest. Your heart never rests. If it rests, you're dead. It has to continually beat even when you're resting. Now, they call it a resting heart rate, but it's not resting, it's still beating. Now, you can increase that. It is a muscle, so it gets stronger with the more that you work it. So it gets stronger with the more that you work it. Um, so it is a muscle. And by doing this, you're making your heart stronger. And by doing this, you're also making your body stronger. Now, it's your main muscle in your body that produces oxygen to your lungs, blood flow to your rest of your body that makes things work. It is your main organ. So when you think of heaven, I want you to think of the main organ, but it is limited. Like earth, it is limited. If there's things that you can do in your life, guys, and I know you're like, this, what does this have to do with Ishinryu? Well, it has everything to do with Ishinryu because as you train in Ishinryu, you learn to apply these techniques to your life. In a heightened situation, for example, let's take a jump scare. When you get scared, you take a big deep breath, and all of a sudden your heart starts pounding. Boom, 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 boom. It gets to beating fast. Well, you're working your heart out. You have to have the correct breathing techniques to calm that back down to get it at a regulatory rate. People have hyperventilated because they were scared, because then they start breathing hard to make up for the rapid heart rate, the excessive amount of blood, if you will. So if you get the incorrect amount of blood and then the incorrect amount of oxygen, and these don't stay balanced, like a person's balance is almost the same as a weight, and you don't train to balance these things out, you're going to have a chemical imbalance, which is going to cause your system to shut down until everything can get back regular, and hope it does and not cause any damage. So this is something that's very important to me, but I want to go on and read a little bit more of the founding that I had of the heart. Okay, now this blows my mind. Your heart will beat at least 4,560 times in an hour. That's a big number, and that don't sound like much. But let's continue on. and 109,440 beats per day. That's amazing. 109,440 times per day. Did you know your heart works that hard? Let's go further. Let's go into 1 year. Your heart will beat at least 39,945,600 times in an average life expectancy of 80 years. It could at least beat at least 3,195,648,000 times. What other muscle do you know that can do that? When you sleep, it's beating. When you awake, it's beating. Now, there is some factors that can regulate that. And as martial artists, that's on an average resting heart rate, guys. That's not a that's average. That's a resting heart rate. So if you did nothing all your life, and that's based on the years of 80 years of age. Um, but so when you work out, you're increasing that heart rate. It's having to work harder. There's factors in this that can increase or decrease the condition of your heart: stress, emotion, difficult times in your life. The training helps you moderate that to an acceptable level during those times so that you're not adding more stress and more things to your life to damage your circulatory system, or as you have it, your heart rate and your heart having to overwork itself due to stress. I want to go on to some other parts. The fact that we are the strongest and the weakest in the universe. Well, we feel compassion, we feel hurt, we feel emotional damage, we lose loved ones, we see terrible things happen. As humans, we have an emotion of care, okay? And I know animals do too, but we have something that makes us one of the strongest beings in the universe. And that's the fact of being able to communicate. We can communicate to animals, we can communicate to different languages, we can communicate by body language, by eyesight, how we direct certain things, hand motions. You know, the human is one of the strongest beings in the universe. And the fact that we can communicate makes us the strongest, one of the strongest beings in the universe. But it also, in return, relating to this code, it also makes us the weakest being in the universe because we can't control our anger. We can't control our emotions. We can't control our name calling. We can't control these things. We talk when we shouldn't talk. We talk, um, and we're mean to people. Um, and compassion is the driving force. You're either compassionate for something or you're compassionate against something, but compassion is the driving force. All of that pumps through the heart. And it is the same as heaven and earth. We are unlimited by the things that we can accomplish. However, some of us will not put forth the work to get those unlimited things. This is where your training comes in. For example, you're walking down the street, you get attacked, your heart rate goes up, your breathing's under, you hadn't been put in a situation, or you haven't trained in a situation to know how to handle that. You could hyperventilate, like I said before, and pass out. Where does that leave you? Or you can learn to moderate your breathing, keep your head about you, keep your heart at a regular thing, because you may have to run. You may need to save that heart for running, that breath for running, but you need to regulate this so that you keep everything moderated. And these Isshinryu codes is a roadmap to do that. These types of things is crucial in our lifestyles, in our training, and everything. And to understand these codes, hopefully, and even myself, hopefully, will continue to study these codes. This is the first one. A person's heart is the same as heaven and earth. Well, if you think about the heavens, we look up and we see all the stars and we see the skies. It's kind of relaxing. So we have items here in the heavens that can help us calm ourselves down. It also lets us know if there's a storm coming. It also gives us warnings and identifiers. We'll relate that to combative terms. We can identify things, places, and things that is a danger to us, something that may be harmful to us, situations that we put ourselves into. And we do it to ourselves, which is the earth part, which is not saying everything on earth is bad, but I'm just saying when you go to limited and unlimited, then it becomes two different scenarios. But we have to have all of these. The sun has to rise and has to set on the earth. It the earth is dependent on the heaven, and the heavens is dependent on the earth because it has to have something to rise and set over. So it all has to work together. The biggest lesson I think that we could get from this is learning in all of these aspects. But by doing that, we have to have our heart in the right place. We have to have our heart driven by something that is positive to help us through the negative. We need the negative to help us understand how to make it through those times. But we need the positive to understand how to get through those times. And I know I'm not reaching here at all. I'm just telling you from my experience. These things didn't mean anything to me at first when I started training. I was a white belt and whatever. I just wanted to fight. I just wanted to get out there and show me some cool moves and stuff. But as I started training, I started living life got a hold of me a little bit. I started at an early age, but living life got a hold of me. I had responsibility. I didn't know how to handle that. So I had to revert back to my training. And this is our roadmap. When you're doing a straight punch, if you're doing a straight punch, let's just say the Isshinryu trademark technique, we're doing the vertical punch, we're doing the straight punch, um, and you're only doing halfway, you're not doing it. You've got to put your whole heart into it. Tatsuo started everything off with one heart. Give everything you got. Protect your heart at all costs. And that means situations, relationships, financial, work, society, everything. Protect your heart. He's giving you tools. He's giving you a roadmap here. Protect your heart. Also, put everything you have into it. Every technique that you do, if you're performing kata, don't perform everything you've got into every single one of those techniques. When you do perform that technique, I want you to make sure that your breathing's right. I want to make sure that you are regular, keeping your heart rate regular so that you can get to the end of the kata. Okay, you got to maintain that stability. How do you do that? Well, that's by exercising your heart and making it stronger. By making your heart stronger, the rest of your body will get stronger. Your mind will get stronger. Your heart will get stronger. Your arms will get stronger. Your legs will get stronger. Am I the strongest I could ever be? No, because it's a never ending thing. It's unlimited on how much and how much better I could do. When you limit that, then you become mediocre. You become satisfied in your training. You become, well, I'm burnt out on this. Well, you can't. Just keep training and add more to it. Push yourself to those limits, but understand you have to know your limits. And if you don't never get there, you never know what they are. Yes, life's hard. Life's real hard. Life doesn't want you to make it. It doesn't care if you make it. It doesn't. You have to get determined within your training and in yourself and in your life that you're going to do this and you can do this because there's many people before us that did this. Some of them, eh, they gave everything that they have. Some of them gave all. They gave their lives so that you could be free. All gave some, but some gave all. And I want you to keep that when Tatsuo may have been the only father or the only person of contact that some of these Marines or these soldiers, the Air Force, Navy, Army, whichever branch you served in, if you came in contact with the founder, his compassion coming from his heart was unlimited. And he wanted to keep that going for many, many years. You know, if you date it back from 1956 to now, that's what? I mean, you do the math. It's not that old. It ain't even been 100 years yet here in America. And look how far his dream has come. And we're going to take it further. So I want to take the current situation. I wanted to talk about the first code. And it's awful funny that the second code goes into coalition with the first code. It just follows right in suit, all eight of these. And when you talk about this first code, that should be something that you do on your first day of training. Understand how to breathe properly. By breathing properly, pay attention to your body. Pay attention to how your heart regulates when you get your cool down time. See how you can bring yourself down slowly and then how quick you can get your heart rate right back to where it was at. Work that muscle. Understand how your body works. We're in the art of self defense. Notice I said self defense. Okay. I'm not going to be out there when the guy attacks you, probably. It's my responsibility. Hopefully, with something I show you or something I tell you, you'll be able to protect yourself. Hopefully. Okay. But you're in the art of Isshinryu, which is self defense. So you have to build a defense for yourself. To start with, you have to understand how your body works. You have to understand how your heart works. You have to understand how your oxygen works. What does your heart pump? It pumps blood. It pumps the good stuff to your lungs on the left side or the right side, and then on the other side pumps the waste out. So it's working heaven and earth, heaven and earth, heaven and earth, the rise and the set, the rise and the set, the yin and the yang, whatever way you want to say it. And that's not coming from me. That's just coming from the American Heart and Lung Society on their research of understanding how the cardiovascular system works. So using that code is what I wanted to talk about tonight, and we're already into 8:32. Man, it flies by, I'm telling you. But we're into 8:32 of our show, and I want to take the next few minutes. And what I try to do is I really want to get on this subject. And what I want you guys to do for me tonight is let's do some homework. Um, am I on the track? Am I on the right track? You have some different ideas you'd like to share with the people anywhere. Come on the show. Let's talk about this. Let's because I'm here to learn, not here to teach, and I learn every day. And you know what? Teaching is learning, but I'm telling you, I love to learn. So if you got something you want to share with me, you may have a different aspect or the way I'm going with this or whatever. We would love to have you on the show. But for the next few minutes, let's take the next 15 to 20 minutes and let's do some questions and answers here. So, Miss Rebecca, if you don't mind pulling up the chat thing there and let's get our community here watching. And if they want to come on and talk to me, I don't mind them coming on for a few minutes. Just tell them how to do that, and we'll get them on. But guys, I really want you to think. I want to read all eight codes to you before we go to the question and answer segment. The first one is the person's heart is same as heaven and earth. The second one is the blood circulating is almost the same as the moon and the sun. We talked about that by using the first one. The manner of drinking and spitting is either hard or soft. Now, some people misconstrue that one, so we're going to discuss that one too in a later broadcast. A person's unbalance is unbalance is the same as a weight. It's funny that all four of these, that's halfway through, but all four of these we touched on with the code number one. Chemical imbalance, things like keeping yourself regulated. All this is in play. Breathing, maybe the manner of drinking and spitting is either hard or soft. Maybe that got the circulation. It's funny how all these coincide with each other. Okay. The body should be able to change directions at any time. We talked about that too because we said we may have to turn and run. We need to make sure we got everything in perspective to where we can run. Our breathing, our heart rate, everything like that. The time to strike is when opportunity presents itself. That is true. That has never been more true. Right there, the time to strike is when opportunity presents itself. Sometimes you may have to create an opportunity. And we'll talk about that when we get into that because that is great for people at work. The eye must see all sides and the ear must listen in all directions. Sometimes we do too much talking and we need to listen. I feel like I'm talking too much right now, so I want to listen. So
No.
let's bring on some of our guests and see if they have any questions. I'd be happy to try to answer your question. Or if you have a comment, please let me know. I'd love to learn some things from you guys too. So, Miss Rebecca, we have anybody we want to have any questions or comments or to bring on to the show?
I don't see any just yet, but I did put in the chat that we were having the question and answers, and if anybody wanted to leave, bleh, if anybody had a question, then to put that Q before their question, that way we'll be able to pick those out from the other chats that are already on there. So
Okay, okay. Well, hello. Let's see. We got Caroline. Hey, Caroline, how are you doing? Thank you for calling in. Uh, I see your name popped up. I just want to say hello to you on the show too, as well. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast. Um, Anybody got any questions or answers that they want to talk about? Um, give you a few minutes here to.
oh well, there's my question.
Did you have a question?
No, I'm actually in this chat here, which is connected to the chat on that's going through our Facebook group as of right now. So I
Uh huh.
wasn't sure, but it ended up popping up over here too. So I'm like, okay, well at least they can actually answer on Facebook. They can actually go through that Facebook chat. They should be able to if they have a question, and it should pop up right here because mine just popped up with what I just told them. So that's a good thing. Now we've got two ways that they can answer or ask questions.
That's well, Miss Rebecca, I got a question for you. Um,
I'm gonna try to answer
the person's heart is same as heaven and earth. Have you experienced that any in your training?
the same as heaven and earth. Hmm.
Yeah, some of
Well,
the things I talked about, like the upscaled, like how do you feel before you start a kata? What does your body do
ah,
before you get out there and start a kata?
I can honestly say that my body will be in the process of getting ready. It'll be getting ready for action. Um, with me knowing the katas and whatever kata it is that, like Chinto, for example, if I'm going to get up and I'm going to perform Chinto, then my brain already knows, hey, we're going to do Chinto. So my body is following up with that, going, all right, game on, because we already know what we're going to do. So, I mean, as far as just getting ready, my body is getting energized. I've already got energy flowing through me. And then when it's time for me to step out there and do that kata, man, it's like, wow. Half the time I forget if I miss something or not. So that's why I say, did I
So
forget something?
let's relate
But I
that to
mean
the first. Let's
that's just
relate
me.
that to the first code, a person's heart. So what when you first did your kata, let's go back when you were first competed with your kata for the very first time. Was your heart just like
Oh, I was scared to death.
was your heart
Yeah.
beating fast or was it just a resting heart rate or what happened when you went out there? What did your heart do?
No, the very first time that I went to do a kata, I did Sauchi, my very first tournament. So I was definitely not at a resting heart rate. My heart rate was up. I was shaking because I was nervous. And
Yeah.
but then after it was all said and done, I had calmed down, everything went back to normal, and then I just got this sudden happy feeling. I'm like, yeah, that was neat. When's the next one? Let's go. So
So
I
how
mean, no,
did
I
you
was not at a resting heart rate.
how did you take that nervousness and that adrenaline and that that immediate rush?
Yes.
How did your training help you get through that? Was it breathing?
Well,
Or was it
breathing is an important part of especially doing the katas and stuff. And I mean, with being so nervous and getting out there in front of all those people, I with the second tournament that I went to, I had learned from the first, and that's important. It's a learning process. It's all a learning process. You're always learning. So, especially with the second tournament, um, like I said, I remembered the first, but the second tournament I wasn't so nervous. I took just all of the feelings. I was getting ready, my and I put that all into my kata. And when I put that all into my kata, there there was the power, there was the strength, the breathing was in the right places, and it made a powerful impact because I walked out with a first place trophy for that. But I mean, and it's not all about walking out with the medals and the trophies. It's fun to do that, yes, and it's golly, it's exciting. But it's a learning thing. You're always going to learn. And I
and
hope that made sense, but I mean that's,
oh,
you know,
absolutely, absolutely. And see, but what that comes from is something like Carrie Weaver here just said they agree with what we're saying, but definitely different interpretations, and that's great. That's awesome. But because
yes,
and also they feel compassion, drive, loyalty, integrity, all honor, all this stuff builds this stuff, and it all starts with getting the heart right, getting in there and understanding your training. One thing that I do want to
yes,
say is, when I first started talking about this, it says that the codes of Ishinryu, it is hoped that you will think through the various parts of the code and apply the ideas to your own situations. So many people go through many different things and they take many different roads to get there. Um, understanding your training is crucial. Understanding that it all starts with the heart and the compassion, the drive. You have to have a compassion. You have to have a drive for something. Um, and if nothing else, for yourself, self
mhm,
improvement. You know, Maybe I need to analyze myself, and we all have things we can work on. We all have our faults. Nobody's perfect. Um, we are limited to that aspect. Um, but we are unlimited on if we ever stop working on ourselves. I think it was Martin Luther King Jr. that said the only way to get to the top of the stairs is to take the first step. And now, I mean, that's
yes,
a big statement. So the only way to get a perfect kata or the best self defense is to take the first step. In this case, it's our modes or our laws or our bylaws or our structure of our system, which is let's get the heart right. A person's heart is the same as heaven and earth. So it has both elements in it. Um, and we
mhm,
are talking about a person's heart, which is one heart, a person's heart, not everybody's heart. It didn't say everybody's heart, it says a person's heart. So that's
mhm,
talking to you, your heart, my heart,
yes,
you know, and how we get there, we may take different avenues. Some people may run, some people may not be able to run. They may have injured legs, they may have bad hips, but there's other things that they can do to get there. So different avenues. They're going to have different looks, going to have different approaches, going to have different ideas. But the main thing is you survived. and
Mhm.
you survived that kata. It
I
didn't matter. It didn't matter at that time or whether you won or lost. It was the idea that you tackled your fear of getting in front of people. You moderated your heart rate.
yeah.
You kept your composure about you, even though you were shaking and nervous and things like that. But when you got through it, and let's say you didn't get through it, let's say you forgot halfway through. Well,
Doesn't matter.
that's halfway more than most people's done. You should feel accomplished with yourself, knowing that the
Yes,
next time you go out there, you may be able to do the other half because you're going to come back and you're going to train. You're going to push yourself to that limit. Tonight, guys, I just wanted to talk to you about really diving into your system. Put enough care into what you're training, especially if you're a child. You know, these things may not apply to you now, but if we can instill this into the growth of our children now, imagine what our future could be. But if we ignore these concepts and these principles and these laws, do we have a future? So I want to discuss some of that, um, because when you talk about the physical, the spiritual, and the mental aspects, you're talking about Ishinryu to me, because that's what I see. That this first code is opening a door of expanding and not shrinking my knowledge, my capabilities, my understanding. Number one, my perseverance, my being able to preserve and protect the lineage and heritage you come from. It all starts with the heart, being compassion, showing compassion to someone else. The biggest thing that I see in Ishinryu, and I've been in it for a long time, but the biggest thing that I see in Ishinryu is this very first code. This very first code. And what I mean by that is I'm not what I see is people need to get themselves out of the way. If you'll be compassionate and put others before you, you'll be amazed at how much more growth you'll do. But if you keep watering yourself, you're going to drown yourself, you know? Um, and oh, here's one. Here's a good one. While we call
yeah.
them, while we call them the Isshinryu codes, I think it's worth mentioning that the Kempo Gokui absolutely essential principles of fist law is from the Bubishi. That is correct. Tatsuo Sensei got them from his training with Miyagi Chogun Sensei. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, those were displayed. To my understanding, those were displayed in the Ajina Dojo or the Central Dojo in Ajina. Those were displayed on the wall. The Kempo Gokui, which is the 8 modes, which technically was the law of the land for the Bubishi. So yes, that is correct. And I thank you for, I'm going to show this comment because that is outstanding. I thank you for sharing that with us. It says Facebook user. I'm not sure who it is, but thank you so much for that because,
It's Mr. Matthew Blair.
oh, Matthew Blair, my buddy. Yeah. Well, I should have known that. So,
Yes,
yeah,
it's Mr. Matthew Blair.
Matthew
Yeah, he's
Blair,
on Facebook. So
thank you for that, my friend, because, the principles of the fifth law, and some of you may not understand that, but some will. And the Kempo Gokui is the most important part of our training, and
oh,
sometimes it gets overlooked.
uh,
Well, all the time it gets
yeah.
overlooked. I'm sorry. Do what, ma'am?
Oh,
Do you have Do you have
it
something to
was
say?
a little bit of audio going on. A little bit
Oh,
of
okay.
audio going on. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. So thank you, Sensei Blair, for sharing that with us, buddy, and thank you for tuning in with us this evening. Well, folks, it's about 10 minutes left to the show.
About that.
Um, I want you to be tuned for next week. I know she loves this. Next week we have a special program for
I do.
everyone. We have a special guest that has signed up to be on this program. He's from Sacramento, California, and this is going to be Sensei Mike Oliver. And he's going to be sharing his journey with us next week, right here live on Isshinryu Today at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which will be 5 o'clock his time. So I want to give a big shout out to Mike Oliver for reaching out and being our first guest on the show of our new Isshinryu podcast um, program here that shares on many different social media sites, and we're happy to have this and able to do this because with this feature, Miss Rebecca, we can hack him on. We can later on in the podcast, as the podcast keeps growing and going, we're going to be having live workouts, and from
Yeah.
different schools. We'll be bouncing ideas off each other, bunk eyes. This is going to be great, guys. I'm so excited for this channel. But please take that Isshinryu straight punch and punch that like button and hit that subscribe because we want to build a community here. I didn't say an association, I said a community, an Isshinryu community. COVID about put us under, man. I mean, the only way we could talk to each other was things like this, and we learned this from this. And being able to see Matthew Blair has visited my dojo before. Okay. If it wasn't for a social media site and his instructor, Andy Salone, I never got to meet this guy, and he came into my dojo, and what a phenomenal person! And he's got a channel too. Check him out. I'm gonna blast you out, Matthew. I hope you don't mind. But Sensei Blair has got a YouTube channel too, and check out some of the things he does. You actually might get to see a little bit of the Okinawan island. You may get to see Okinawa. You may get to see some things that he shares on there because it's outstanding. Because and let's do this for Sensei Sloan too. Let's keep him in your prayers. You know, he got to move. He was enlisted in the Navy. He was in the island of Okinawa, and he finally got to come back to America, only to get sent back again. So I know he's a little
Oh, wow.
downhearted. I know we're happy that he's over there because he shares so much stuff with us, but he was really kind of disappointed. So keep him in your prayers. Let him know that we're supporting him. If you get a chance to reach out to him on the Facebook page or somewhere, reach out to him and tell him that you're thinking about him. It would mean a lot. Um, and Michael said he's very happy we are back on the air. He will spread the word. I always
Yes.
learn from you, Sensei. Congratulations. Thank you. I always learn from you too, my friend. And
Thank you,
that's what
Mr.
we want to
Blair.
do. That's what we want to do, guys. We want to just promote good Ishinryu karate. We want to talk about it. We want to learn. We want to share new ideas. And we want you to share your journey too. So come on, be a guest on the show. Don't be scared to come on camera. You don't have to, we don't have to put your camera on. You can cut it off, but we can hear you if you cut your mic on. So
Yeah.
we'll bring you on here and you can share your story too. Miss Rebecca, it's time for the closing statements. Um, you got anything that you want to add?
Yes, I do actually. Um,
Okay, well,
so so I know that we're gonna have our special guest next Saturday.
Mike
So
Oliver.
most likely the the following Saturday will be our the 8 Codes of Isshinryu Part 2. So we're actually having the next couple of weeks, unless we have a guest, which we want and we love, we
Matthew
will
Blair.
continue. We will, yeah, Matthew Blair, yeah. But we will continue with these 8 Codes of Isshinryu. So possibly
Or
not
Kerry
next Saturday,
Craven.
but the next Saturday, that podcast will be a part 2. Stay tuned.
All right, guys. God bless you. Good night. Kiatsu.
Much love.
Ray. Good night, everyone.